This video is going to cover how to determine if a source is credible, and specifically dealing with sources that you find online over the internet. So as a researcher, there's two ways that you can find information, and that will be the primary ways that you'll use as a student. The first will be to use the library's databases, and the second will be to use the internet, such as like Google or Google Scholar. When writing academic papers, it's usually preferred that you use library databases because the information in those databases has been verified and vetted by a publisher. Everything in a database had to go through a publisher, whereas anything posted online can really be written by anyone without it being vetted by someone else with credentials. Okay, so this means that it comes down to you to determine if something is credible when you're using the internet. Whereas if you use a library database, it's most likely that the information has already been verified as credible. In academic writing, there are like different levels of credibility. We kind of have like a scale or standard. And at the top of this standard is what we would call a scholarly source, which has gone through the process of peer review. So peer review is when a source is read by experts in that field and they verify that that information is accurate and up to date. Okay, so a scholarly source is almost always going to be a journal article or a book. Websites and videos are not peer reviewed and do not go through that process. All right, so to show you how you can determine if something is peer reviewed in the database, if you do your search, you'll likely see this little purple book icon with the words peer reviewed here, and that will tell you that this is a scholarly journal. Now, once in a while, something won't be flagged as scholarly, like here, the Journal of Evangelical Theological Society. However, if something says journal in it, it most likely is going to be scholarly. It just may be a little kind of error in the system that didn't mark it. Now, if you do have something like Harper's Bazaar, that doesn't immediately strike me as being a scholarly source, and I don't see that icon there. So I would have to do a little more digging. Now, it doesn't mean that this source is not credible. It just means it didn't match the peer-reviewed process. And if you want to look for only peer-reviewed journal articles, you can always go over to availability and click this little box right here, and that will only pull up peer-reviewed sources in your search. All right, so the last thing I want to say, if you're looking at websites and their internet does not have that little peer-reviewed icon by it, unfortunately, most all peer-reviewed stuff is going to be found in online library databases, although some of it can be found through Google. This leaves you to then consider, how do you determine if a website or article is credible? So here are three things to look for: the author, the text, and the publisher. So for the author, ask yourself this: does the author have degrees related to what they're talking about? Does the author have work or personal experience related to the topic they're writing on? And is the author a well-known authority on the subject they're writing? So realize that a lot of popular publications like Time Magazine or Newsweek or anything like that, those are written by journalists who frequently do not have degrees in the area they are writing on or really any experience. So by academic standards, their credibility may be questionable. A lot of them will have like an English degree or a journalism degree, but they'll be writing on economics. So take that into consideration when you're picking your source. Next, look at the text. Does the author reference where they got their information, either through citations in APA or MLA format or through hyperlinks? Does the information in the text match what other publications say? So is there kind of a growing consensus around the information that this information is true? Publisher. Does the publisher have a good reputation? Does the publisher ever employ peer review or fact-checking? And you can often find that by going to their website. Does the publisher have an agenda or bias? Now, note that if there is a bias, that doesn't mean the information is wrong or fake. It just means that that publication or that author is viewing this information through a certain lens or with an agenda. Okay, so just take that into consideration when you're looking at that information. You may want to find out what the other side says just as a comparison. But just because there's an agenda or bias doesn't mean the actual facts are wrong. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is show you 6 different websites and walk you through how I would evaluate them and whether I would say that they are credible or not for a paper. And the topic that these 6 websites will all have will revolve around the topic of teamwork. I found all of these by just Googling teamwork. So for this first source, I Googled teamwork, and this article looked interesting. The importance of teamwork. We all know teamwork is great, but why? All right, so immediately when I'm looking for a noticing, all right, Bright HR, I don't really know who this is, but I see a phone number. Okay, that's kind of a little bit of a tip-off. And if I keep scrolling through the article immediately, I noticed, okay, there's no author mentioned up at the top, but sometimes they're at the bottom. There are a couple links, but they just seem to be to terms or maybe other parts of the website. And I'm not seeing anything, other sources or links. And then there's no author or date or anything on the bottom. But at the bottom of the website, I'm getting the impression this is for a business. Okay, so I'm not going to consider it credible. Because I don't know who the author is, I don't know where they got their information, I don't know anything about this company. So it just seems like a publicity article for them. So I'm going to say it's not credible. In the second article, right, this looks confused, but it's by HR Magazine. All right, so that sounds like a group, organization that would deal with things in the workplace. So that kind of is lending itself to credibility. I do see this join now or sign in and like a card and phone call. That's not bothering me too much because most like news organizations, magazines, newspapers, they require subscriptions. So that's not off-putting. I like that I see this author right here. I'm actually going to click on her name to see what I can learn about her. So while this loads, remember some of the things we want to learn or see about the author is, does she have any degrees related to the field that she's talking about? Does she maybe have any workplace experience that would be relevant? A personal experience of some kind? That's what we'll be looking for. And that's not going through, so I'm going to click on it again and see if it comes up. All right, well, it's not, but I did this earlier. And I found out she did not have a degree in business management. She does write for this magazine, but she had like an English major. So she didn't have a business degree or anything like that. So that's immediately making me pause. But I'm going to finish going through the article and see what I find. So I do see some things that look like citations, links to a book that could be good, to this Project Aristotle. Some other things. So she does have some references in here, which could be good. To see if does she have a list of sources at the end. And she does not. She lists some terms, but there's nothing else. So because she doesn't have a degree in the area, I'm putting the source as kind of iffy. The magazine seems good. The publisher seems good. There's a little bit of citing in the article, but because she doesn't have a degree, I'm putting this so-so. Maybe I want to see if there's someone else, a better source out there, or verify her information. All right, the next source I'm going to look at is kind of a political or activist organization. So Brady, United Against Gun Violence. All right, so immediately I'm seeing that they have an agenda. Let's okay, they're upfront about it. All right, facts that make us act. All right, let's look at their facts and see what we can find. All right, so they're asking to donate, all of that. So really, I'm aware there's a bias. That's okay. All right, so what I'm seeing immediately, Centers for Disease Control provide annual gun fatality statistics. I see the link that I can click on that should take me to that website where then I should be able to find the statistics they're referencing. So this is really good. I like when they do that because then I can go directly to their source, and that way I can verify it for myself. And it's a government organization, so information from a government organization should be accurate, right? So they are continuing. I'm assuming I can maybe find all these stats on that other page, but I wanted to double check that. And then down here, there are listing some more information. So overall, I would say that this might be okay.
especially if I can verify the information, we're doing good. All right, here's another type of source, a TED Talk. All right, I'm familiar with this organization. I know they have a good reputation. I watch a lot of their videos. They usually have experts talking about different topics. So first thing I'm going to do, look at the author, Tom Wujek. I've never heard of this guy. So I'm going to look at his bio. It says he studies how we share and absorb information. He's an innovative practitioner of business visualization using design and technology to help groups solve problems and understand ideas. He's a fellow at Autodesk. Okay. I don't see like degrees. I'm not familiar with Autodesk. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up and Google him and see what I can find. And so a quick Google search shows that he's an adjunct professor at Singularity University. Okay, that's something. Multiple TED conference speaker and pioneer in the emerging practice of business visualization. Okay, and then there seem to be some books and things. So, all right, I'm kind of convinced that he probably is a bit of an authority. And TED usually vets their speakers pretty well. So I'm going to say that this is a credible source, and I can use this in my paper. All right, the next one is a web page from U.S. Department of Labor. So this would be a government source. So government sources are usually always considered credible. Now, when I scroll through immediately, there's no author. Again, that's not uncommon with government sources because a lot of people may work on the project, even from different departments, so they're not named. Also, I'm not seeing a lot of links to information. Sometimes that's common because it's the government, they're doing their own research and they're providing their own information. So again, I would like to see links, but that's not unexpected with the government source. And then resources, these are more for public awareness rather than sources that they consulted or used in writing this web page. So I would accept it, even though it doesn't maybe match all the criteria we had. Then lastly, I found this article, Interdisciplinary Education and Teamwork, A Long and Winding Road, a Wiley Online Library. Okay, probably most of you haven't heard of that. I know that it is often a library where you can find scholarly sources, because I've seen it a lot. Some tip-offs that this is a scholarly source is one, it has a DOI. So a DOI is something that's usually only given to academic articles. I also see that has an abstract, and it seems to be following an APA format with purpose methods and all of that. It's published by, let's see, it looks like, the assistant professor, right? So they're professor at University of Ottawa. Okay, so this person seems like they're going to be qualified. Sometimes you can even click on their names and it'll pull up. So that's just to give you some insight of how your professors are looking at online sources and evaluating them. But you can see how quickly I did by just looking at the author. What could I immediately identify about them? Did I look at the text? Did I find links in their sources of information? And then publisher, what could I just gather quickly from my own knowledge of their reputation? So if you have any questions about whether you can use an online source for your paper or whether it's credible, you can always run that source by me and I will help you evaluate.